Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me. In today's training video, we are going to be covering how to enroll a patient in the chronic care management routine in Meditech. Remember, June 1st and after, we're going to want to launch the Expanse WPL icon found on your desktop. For today's training purposes, I'm going to go ahead and launch the test version. I want to select Launch New Session underneath the 2.2. On the next screen here, HCIS, for today's training, I'm selecting GHS Test 2. For Go Live, we'll want to make sure that we're choosing GHS Live. Depending on your access, you may have multiple jobs attached to your username. In this event, I want you to verify that you're selecting ACO CCM Indiana Lakes. Once you have that selected, down in the bottom right-hand corner, I want you to select Sign On. We'll hit OK through the message. And the first thing that I want you to do is to verify your subdivisions. So down here at the bottom, I want you to click that subdivisions, and I want you to verify that your facility is set to Goshen Physician Ambulatory. If it defaults you into Goshen Health, I want you to backspace and then select the drop-down arrow and choose Goshen Physician Ambulatory. Once you have that filled out, down in the bottom right corner, we're going to select OK. Now you're going to see my screen flash here just for a second because I'm going to emulate one of the nurse care coordinators. Okay, our menu should look more similar now. What I would like for you to do is to select Ambulatory, Clinical Home Screen. Remember that our clinical home screen is going to be our starting point. For today's training, I want you to go to the Find Patient located in the top right. In my example today, I'm going to be using Alex Test. When I enter in the name and select Enter, it's going to bring up any patient meeting that criteria. In the search field, I could have also entered in the patient's date of birth, which would be preferred. I'm going to select Alex, and what it's going to do is take me into the chart level. And I can tell that I'm at the chart level because I see my chart icon grade at the top. And over here on the right-hand reference panel, I do not see any visit associated with this chart. I do have a couple things that I want to review with you while we're on this screen. If the patient had a consent sign that had already been uploaded, I can find that information from my Summary tab. If I collapse these so I can see all the information on one screen, you'll see here Scan Documents. And on my Scan Documents, I can see CCM Consent with an image. When I select this, I can view the document that's been uploaded. Another item that I want to point out is going to be your patient's problems list found over on the right-hand reference pane. With the information that's being converted from NextGen, the status of the conditions is not going to be a part of it. So during chart prep or during the visit, it's going to be up to the clinical or provider to update the status to chronic. To verify that information, I can click on Problems to bring up the problem overlay, and we can take a look at these conditions on the active problem list. When I select the Expand panel, I can see that this one here has been updated to chronic. I can go through the list to verify that this information is correct. If I happen to come across one that I know I'm going to need to include in the enrollment process, I can send a task to the clinical or provider asking them to update the status. Once I'm done reviewing this information, I can select Exit. So let's say that we need to enroll Alex Test into the chronic care management program. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to select Menu, and I'm going to scroll down just a little bit here, and at the very bottom, you're going to see Chronic Care Management. Select this, and it's automatically going to pull in the patient's name, date of birth, age, gender, and date of birth. Moving our way down, the CCM time panel is not going to be utilized at Go Live, so I'm going to go ahead and collapse this for right now. The next panel is where we're going to add the problems associated with their care management. I'm going to select Add Problem, and you'll notice that the same list that we just looked at from the reference pane are going to be listed here as well. And I can already tell you that I verified that hypertension and diabetes were marked as chronic. Once I have these selected, I hit OK, and I can move down to my last panel. Underneath enrollment, we are going to mark yes that they are enrolled in CCM. A required field is that we have to mark which program they're going to be enrolled in. Is this going to be a non-complex or a complex CCM? For this example, I'm going to go ahead and choose non-complex. The supervising provider and location are going to pull in based on the most recent account for this patient. If I need to update this information, I can select the X and search for the provider that I want. When I type in the provider's last name and wait just a second, it will give me a drop-down search ahead list. I can now confirm my provider and my location. Again, if I needed to update my location, I can clear this out and do a search. I'm going to add here the enrolled date. I can do so by selecting the calendar icon. I can select today if that's the date I want, or I can go historical as well by utilizing the arrows at the top of my calendar. For today's purposes, I'm going to make this easy and just choose today. And then we're going to look at consent received. Remember that we looked at the summary tab of our patient chart and we verified under the scan document that that had been uploaded and received. So I can mark this as yes, and it was a written consent. Moving down to the start date, I'm just going to go ahead and put today's date of service. Same rules would apply for that calendar functionality. For the duration, I'm going to enter in 365 days. So that way we remember that we need to get an updated consent form after 1 year. If I have any additional information that I want to include in this enrollment, I can enter that here under the reason comment field. Once I've completed this, I'm going to select Save, and we've now enrolled the patient in the chronic care management routine. We are going to ask that you do one additional step. And the reason for this is because currently in NextGen, we add an alert to the patient chart as a way to notify clinical and providers that a patient has either been enrolled or declined in the program. Because we're a one chart, special indicators work a little bit different and impact a wider range of colleagues. In order to avoid alert fatigue, what we're going to ask you to do is from the patient's chart, I want you to click Health Management. All patients, no matter the age, are going to have a protocol titled Wellness. And you can see right now that we are currently viewing the Wellness protocol. If I were to have accessed this patient and viewing may have been set to, let's say, diabetes as an example, all I would need to do to change this to Wellness is to select this drop-down list and choose Wellness. Another troubleshooting tip is if you come in here and the patient is brand new in the Meditech system and maybe the chart hasn't been quite updated fully yet, if you don't see Wellness in this pick list, that's okay. We can select Manage Protocols, and the Wellness may be in bold and black. All we would have to do is select Wellness, and that would apply it to this screen here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch us back to that Wellness so I can show you what the final step is going to be. Underneath screening, we see that there's a CCM, patient enrolled, and a patient declined. What I would like for you to do is last done. We're going to select this little line, and we're going to enter in today as the date of enrollment. So that way it matches what we put in through the routine. Obviously, if the patient had declined, we could do the same functionality here as well. You'll notice that once we changed the last done to today's date, that my next due date automatically updated for 1 year. In addition, you can also click the description of CCM patient enrolled, and this is going to provide you with additional options. If you wanted to, you can change the next due date. So maybe you wanted to update this to 6 months. You can do so through here. More importantly, and what I think you'll use most often, is going to be the comments. When I select comments, this is going to allow me to free type any message that I want to attach to this item. So for example, if this is a non-complex patient, I can enter in COSON, their phone number, maybe the COSON member that is associated with this patient, and then any additional information can be entered here as well. Once I have that comment entered, I can select Save, and you're going to see a green comments button appear. This is going to follow throughout the patient's chart moving forward in future appointments. By doing this extra step, what we're doing is we're creating a single source for your clinicians and providers to easily access to see if the patient is currently enrolled or not. The last thing that I want to show you in this training video is how we can initialize the same workflow we just went through via the workload. So up on our top black navigation panel, we see the workload icon. I'm going to go ahead and select this. And what we have instructed your clinical and providers to do is if they have a conversation with the patient and the patient's interested in enrolling in the program, they are going to send you a clinical task. We can see here underneath clinical that there's a subject of CCM enrollment. When I select this task, down below here in the audit, I can see that the patient agreed to participate, the consent's been signed, and they would like for us to contact the patient. At the beginning of this training video, remember that we went to the Find Patient from the clinical home screen. That is one way to initialize the enrollment process. The second way is what we're currently looking at here. Because I have Alex's test pulled up in my workload, I could have done the exact same steps by accessing his chart. I could have accessed menu and chronic care management, all from the workload routine as well. Once I did all of those steps, I can come in here and document that they have been enrolled, and I can complete the task. And that concludes today's training. Thank you.